여러분도 해보고 싶다면 편안하고 바른 자세로 앉아 눈을 감으십시오. 그리고 복부에서 내쉬는 숨에 집중해 봅니다. 숨을 들이쉬면서 복부가 팽창하고 내쉬는 숨에 수축하는 걸 느껴보세요. 호흡에 집중했던 주의를 편안하게 쉬게 하면서 복부 안에 있는 호흡의 리듬을 느껴봅니다. 숨을 들이쉴 때마다 팽창하는 복부와 내쉴 때 수축하는 숨을 느껴보세요. 첫 숨을 들이마시는 순간부터 복부가 팽창해 숨이 고요해질 때까지의 모든 호흡을 느껴봅니다. 그런 다음 내쉬는 첫 순간부터 숨이 고요해질 때까지의 모든 호흡을 느껴보세요. 이제 고요해질 때까지 숨을 들이마시고 고요해질 때까지 숨을 내쉬면서 호흡의 주기를 느껴봅니다. 그런 다음 들숨과 날숨 사이에 또는 날숨과 들숨 사이에 고요하고 조용한 곳에서 숨을 고르고 휴식을 취하세요. 호흡하면서 편안해집니다. 그리고 마음이 방황하게 되면 호흡의 리듬에 다시 주의를 기울여 봅니다. 이 명상 연습이 끝나면 호흡 사이에 느꼈던 고요함과 조용함이 여러분과 항상 함께한다는 것을 기억할 수 있을 겁니다. 여러분이 숨을 들이쉬거나 숨이 고요할 때도 함께하며 여러분이 숨을 내쉬거나 숨이 고요할 때도 함께합니다. 여러분이 영상을 보거나 이메일을 보낼 때도 가르치거나 가족과 대화할 때도 화가 나거나 기쁠 때, 슬플 때, 신날 때 모두 함께합니다. 이 고요함과 조용함은 여러분 안에 항상 살아있으며 여러분이 호흡에 집중하면 쉽게 찾을 수 있습니다. 호흡에 집중했던 주의가 편안해지도록 1분을 드린 다음 명상 연습을 마칠까 합니다. 혼자 천천히 크게 3번 호흡하세요. 그리고 아직 눈을 뜨지 않으셨다면 뜨기 전에 지금 순간의 기분을 주목해 보세요. 그리고 준비되었다면 눈을 뜨고 영상에 집중해 주세요.
So, if we were together in person, I would ask you how that was for you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And most likely, some of you would say that it was very peaceful. And others of you would say that your mind was distracted, or your body was fidgety, or you felt sleepy or uncomfortable. And what I would like to tell you is that if you noticed your experience, that is mindfulness. And we often get the idea that mindfulness means we need to be calm and peaceful and relaxed. But really, mindfulness simply means paying attention here and now with kindness and curiosity so that we can choose our behavior. So I'd like to break that definition down. Paying attention here and now means doing our best to have our attention in the present moment and not obsessing about the past or worrying or fantasizing about the future. With kindness and curiosity means that we bring these qualities to paying attention, because otherwise, as human beings, we tend to beat ourselves up and tell us that we're doing it wrong, or we should be doing it differently, or simply just notice our mistakes. So when we pay attention here and now with kindness and curiosity to our breath, our thoughts, our feelings, our bodies, the situation and the people in the present moment, we have all the information that we need to choose our behavior. So I'd love it now if you could pause this and get a piece of paper and draw a diagram that looks like this with the 9 dots, but without the box around it. So I'm going to give you just a moment to get a piece of paper and a pencil and to draw this figure without the box. And when you're ready, I'd like you to connect all 9 dots using 4 straight lines. And the lines can cross, but you can't lift your pencil. So when you're ready, I invite you to begin the exercise of joining the dots with 4 straight lines. Again, the lines can cross, but you can't lift your pencil. And as you're doing this, I'd like you to notice your thoughts and your feelings. And I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to do this exercise, and then we'll continue. Just a gentle reminder to notice your thoughts and feelings, and see if you can notice them with kindness and curiosity. and you'll have about 1 more minute. And now 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pencils down. So before I show you the answers, I'd like you to ask yourself some questions and maybe even write your answers underneath the place where you did the puzzle. So what were you thinking? What were you feeling? I'll give you a minute to answer those for yourself. And be honest. How did you speak to yourself? Were you kind and encouraging? Or were you perhaps not so kind and not so encouraging? And again, be honest. And I'll give you just one more moment to write down any other thoughts or observations. So again, before I show you the solution, I want you to consider that for your students, this experience of having a test or a puzzle or a math problem or an essay that they feel they need to perform well on is a daily reality. And it can be, and perhaps it was for some of you, quite stressful. And we often teach in a way that has us believe and has our students believe that there's only one right answer. And students go from class to class and then home to do homework, having this experience. So here are the solutions. And I want to talk about that for a minute. So if you look at the blue solution, you'll see it begins in the bottom right-hand corner and goes up to the top left-hand dot. And then it goes down from the top left-hand dot past the bottom left-hand dot, and then diagonally up through the middle bottom dot and the middle right-hand dot, past the top right-hand dot, and then across to the top left-hand dot. So the first thing to note is that solving this puzzle required thinking outside the box. And I did give you that hint at the beginning of the exercise. The second thing to note is that even if we take this one solution in blue that's shown on the screen, you can realize that there are actually 4 solutions because the solution can be rotated 3 times to 90 degrees. So you could start in the top right-hand corner, the top left-hand corner, and the bottom left-hand corner. So there are actually 4 solutions of the same design rotated 90 degrees. Then if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you will see that there are some additional creative solutions. So I think it's helpful for us and our students to remember that often there is more than one solution in life. So there are a couple points to this exercise. The first is thinking outside the box. The second is remembering that there are multiple solutions to problems. The third is noticing how we talk to ourselves when we're faced with a challenge, and perhaps developing the ability to speak with ourselves more kindly. And now I want you to think about a particular student in your classroom. And I want you to think about the box that you put them in, maybe the box that they put themselves in, and the box that their other teachers and their parents and their friends or their not so friendly classmates put them in. So choose one student and just notice the boxes that you might put them in. And maybe you think of this student as very bright or lazy or difficult or stubborn. And I want you to consider the possibility that they are more than the box that you put them in. And I want you to consider the effects of this box on their experience with you and in their classroom. Because students often live up to our expectations or down to our expectations, as the case may be. And I want you to see if you can notice that moment when a student steps outside their box.
계속 실습을 하겠습니다. 화면을 공유할게요. 좋아요. 눈을 감고 앉아 호흡과 복부에 있는 호흡의 리듬에 주의를 기울여 봅니다. 잠깐 여러분의 몸을 간단히 점검해 보세요. 에너지가 넘치거나 필요한지, 지루하거나 신났는지, 배고프거나 배부른지를 주목해 보세요. 그리고 준비가 되면 호흡하면서 여러분의 발에 집중해 보세요. 발에서 느껴지는 감각에 주목하되 먼저 새끼 발가락부터 감각을 느껴보세요. 이어서 약지 발가락, 중지 발가락, 검지 발가락, 엄지 발가락. 이제 발바닥을 따라 호흡과 함께 주의를 기울여 보세요. 발바닥 앞쪽, 발바닥 안쪽, 그리고 발꿈치에 집중해 보세요. 그리고 호흡과 주의가 발의 근육, 힘줄과 뼈를 따라 발목으로 올라갑니다. 그냥 발의 감각을 느껴보길 바랍니다. 여러분의 양말과 신발과 여러분 발에 느껴지는 공기의 감각에 집중해 보세요. 이제 호흡과 집중은 발목 위로 올라가 종아리와 정강이로 갑니다. 피부에서 근육을 통해 뼈에 느껴지는 감각에 주목해 봅니다. 호흡과 주의를 무릎으로 이동해서 무릎을 받쳐주고 움직이는 근육과 힘줄을 느껴보세요.
And then maybe feeling into
관절의
the knee joints,
뻣뻣함과 움직임에서
noting any
느껴지는
sensations
감각에
of
집중해
stiffness
보세요.
or mobility. And then
그런
letting the
다음
breath and the
호흡과
attention drift
집중은
along the back
허벅지
of the
뒤쪽을 따라
thighs,
이동합니다.
perhaps noticing where your
의자와
thighs make
닿거나 닿지
contact with
않는
the chair
허벅지에
and where they
주목해
don't.
보세요.
Letting the
호흡과
breath and the
주의가
attention
허벅지
move
바깥을
to the
지나
outside of the
허벅지
thighs,
위쪽과
the
허벅지
tops
안쪽으로
of the
이동합니다.
thighs, and the
그런
inner
후에
thighs. And then
다리와
feeling the
몸을
breath and the
연결하는
attention in the
골반을
bowl of the pelvis,
느껴봅니다.
so the area where the legs connect with the body. And perhaps
그리고
you can feel the
골반에서
breath
숨이 확장하고
expand,
유지되다
be
이완되는
still,
것을
and
느낄 수
release in the
있습니다.
bowl of the pelvis. Noting the
엉덩이에서 느껴지는
sensations in the
감각에
buttocks,
주목해 보세요.
and then
그리고
feeling the
복부가
sensations of the
팽창하고
breath again
이완하면서
in the belly.
복부
Feeling
안에
the belly
있는 호흡의
expand
감각에 다시
and
집중해
release.
보세요.
And then
호흡과
allowing the
주의가
breath
등
and attention
아래쪽으로
to drift
올라와
or circle around to the
호흡을
low back.
통해 등
So
하부의
feeling the
팽창과
breath expand
이완을
and release in the
느껴보고
low back. And then
등
feeling the
상부와
breath
중앙에서
in the mid
호흡을
and the upper
느껴보고
back. Perhaps
날개뼈
noting the
사이에 느껴지는
sensations
감각에
between the shoulder
집중해
blades.
봅니다.
And then letting the
호흡과
breath and the
주의를
attention
가슴으로
circle
돌려
forward into the
이동하면
chest. And now
가슴과
feeling the
등
entire
전체,
torso, the
배와
chest,
골반이 있는
the
몸통
back,
전체를
upper, mid, and lower
느껴보세요.
back, the belly and the pelvis.
몸
Feel the
전체가
entire torso
호흡하는 것을
breathing.
느껴보세요.
And allowing the
호흡과
breath and the
주의는
attention to
팔을
drift
지나
down along the
손가락과
arms
손으로 흘러
and into the
이동합니다.
fingers and hands. Noting the
손바닥,
sensations in the palms
손등,
of the hands,
손가락과
the backs of the
엄지에서
hands,
느껴지는
the
감각에
fingers
주목해
and the
봅니다.
thumbs, and maybe
심지어
even noting the
손가락 사이
sensations
공간에 느껴지는
of the
감각도
space between
집중해
the
보세요.
fingers. And when you're
다음은
ready, breathing
호흡을
the
어깨로
attention
보냅니다.
into the shoulders, the
목
back of
뒤로,
the neck, the sides of
옆으로,
the neck, the front
앞으로
of the neck,
보내서
noting any
긴장 또는 통증이
tension or
있는지
ache
유연함 또는
or
편안함에
suppleness
집중해
or
봅니다.
comfort. And then
호흡과
letting the breath
주의를
and the attention
얼굴로
move up into the
이동합니다.
face. So feeling
턱,
the set
입
of the jaw, the
또는
curve or the straightness
볼이
of your mouth,
느껴집니다.
a smile or flatness in your cheeks. Perhaps
코끝에
noticing the
느껴지는
sensations of the
호흡의
breath at
감각에
the tip of
주목해
the
보고
nose. Noting the
눈과 이마에서
sensations
느껴지는
in the
감각에
eyes and the
집중해
forehead.
보세요.
And then allowing
호흡과
the breath
집중은
and the
머리
attention
측면으로
to drift back
이동해서
along the sides of the head and into
귀,
the ears and to the back of
뒷머리,
the head and to the top
그리고
of the
머리
head.
꼭대기로 이동합니다.
And even
뇌로
allowing the
호흡과
breath and the
주의가
attention
흘러가도록 합니다.
drift into the brain. And then
그리고
feeling your
몸
entire
전체가 숨
body
쉬는
breathing.
것을 느껴봅니다.
And often it's
발에서부터
nice to
다리를
lead the
지나
attention up from the
몸통,
bottom of the
발,
feet through the
목,
legs,
머리,
torso, arms,
뇌까지
neck,
호흡과
head,
주의를
and brain,
이동시키고
and then back
머리
down
끝에서
from the
목을
top of the
지나
head through the
발,
neck, arms,
몸통,
torso,
다리,
legs,
그리고
and
발까지
out through the
다시
feet.
내려오면 좋아요.
Breathing the
빨대로
attention
물을
up,
빨아
like
올리듯이
breathing liquid up through a straw, and then
호흡에
releasing
집중해서
the breath and
올라갔다가
attention down.
이완하면서 몸을 따라 내려가면서 몸
Feeling the
전체가
entire
호흡하는
body
것을
breathing,
느껴보세요.
letting the
숨으로
breath
여러분을
fill
채웠다
you
비우고
and empty you. Empty
비웠다
you and
채워보세요.
fill you. And
이
as
실습이
this practice
끝나면
comes to a
여러분의
close,
몸,
you may
정신과
want to take a
마음을
moment to check in
잠깐
with your
살펴볼
body,
시간이 필요할 겁니다.
your mind, and your heart.
이
Just
순간에
noticing how you're
여러분이
feeling in
무엇을
this moment.
느끼는지에 주목해 보세요.
And when
준비가
you're ready,
되면
take some
천천히
3 slow
크게
deep breaths.
3번 호흡하길 바랍니다. 그리고
Opening
눈을
your
뜨고
eyes and
영상에
returning your
집중해
attention to the
주세요.
video. So we're going to
저희는
do
몸
one
알아차리기
more
실습을
body
하나 더 한
awareness
뒤
exercise,
이 모든
and then we're
것을
going
조합해
to
볼
put
겁니다.
these together. So I
왼쪽
invite
손가락들을
you to
이용해서
lift
오른쪽
the ring
검지를
finger
뒤로
of
굽혀
your right
보세요.
hand with the fingers of your left hand, and to
다치지
simply
않도록
notice that
어느
place
지점에서 멈출
where
것인지
you need to
느껴보세요.
stop so that you don't cause injury. And
굽히는
then
걸
once you've
멈췄다면
stopped, you might notice if
여러분의
you can
손가락을
stretch your
좀
finger a
더
little bit more,
굽히거나 덜
or if you
굽혀야 할
want to
필요를
back off and
느낍니다.
relax a little bit. So these two types of practices allow us to bring our attention into our bodies, and often our bodies give us the first indication of what we're feeling and thinking. So if you remember the two practices we did earlier, observing our thoughts during the 9 dots exercise and befriending our feelings, often our thoughts and feelings show up in our bodies. So if we can learn to tune into our bodies, they will often provide an early warning system for us. So now I think we're on to choosing our behavior. So I'm going to read this poem, and then we will talk about how it relates to choosing our behavior. So this poem is called an autobiography in 5 short chapters. Chapter 1, I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault, and it takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault, and it still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is still there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my fault, and I get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk down another street. So I'd like you to consider a hole in your life, and a hole is a repetitive problem. So maybe it's an argument you keep having with a student, colleague, administrator, or family member. Maybe your hole is procrastination. Maybe your hole is believing you're thinking and getting depressed. So just consider one hole. It doesn't need to be the biggest hole in your life, but just one hole that you have. And then consider some different streets. So I'm going to talk about a common hole for school-age children. And that has to do with doing homework or doing chores. So when it's time to do homework or to do chores, students often get angry or frustrated and spend a lot of time arguing. And if they know that and you know that, then you can choose a different street. They can choose a different street. So rather than getting, say, frustrated with math homework, it might be time for a student to go get a drink or a snack, take a walk, listen to a favorite song, and then come back to the math problem. So the analogy of holes and different streets is a way I use to teach students about responding rather than reacting. So another place that this might show up is that someone might say something unkind to a student on the playground or in the cafeteria or in the hallway, and the student may get angry and say something unkind back. And other streets would be for the student to walk away, to take a deep breath and say something funny, to get help from a supportive adult rather than letting the argument escalate. So we can all learn to respond rather than react most of the time, but maybe not all of the time. So now I'd like to give you another practice that will support you in responding. And as with all of the practices, you can teach these practices to your students as well. So this is a peace practice, and it's an acronym in English. I don't know how it's going to work in Korean, but I'm trusting you can figure it out. So this is a practice for when things are difficult. So when you notice things are difficult, the first step is P, which is for pause. Simply pause. The next step is E, and E is for exhale. So when you notice things are difficult, you want to pause and exhale. And after you exhale, you want to inhale and just keep breathing. A is for acknowledge, accept, and allow. And I'm going to use an example for a student. So perhaps your backpack with all your stuff is gone. Your best friend is now your ex-best friend. Your boyfriend or girlfriend is now dating your ex-best friend. And so acknowledging the situation simply means that you recognize the situation as it is. It doesn't mean you like it. It just means that it is the way it is. Accepting it means accepting that it is the way it is and allowing all your feelings, angry, sad, jealous, all of the above, And then C is for choosing your behavior. And C involves some other C's. So compassion for yourself, which my colleague Karen Bluth is speaking about, compassion for others, compassion for how hard and complicated it can be to be a human being. Courage to speak your truth and hear the truth of others. Clarity, willing to be clear about what's your responsibility and what's someone else's responsibility. And the last C is for comedy, and a better word might be humor, but humor in English doesn't start with C, so we'll go with comedy. Sometimes just finding a sense of humor can be extremely helpful. So after you've paused, exhaled, acknowledged, accepted, and allowed, and chosen your behavior, then you can engage with the situation. And when you engage, you may engage after a few minutes or a few hours or a few days or a few weeks, but you want to wait until you can engage skillfully. So it's helpful to remember that you can use peace, this peace practice, in any difficult moment. And sometimes there are moments where doing the entire peace practice the way we just did it is a bit too long. And so in those brief moments, you can use a shorter acronym, ABC, for aware, breathe, choose. So this might be for a moment, again, when a student's struggling with homework or a difficulty with a friend or a mistake in a musical performance or when they're doing sports. And it can be as simple as, I'm aware I made a mistake, I'm taking a deep breath, and I'm choosing to move forward.